Your motto is Vultum Christi Contemplari. What is its translation and significance to you?
The Latin phrase for my Episcopal motto, Vultum Christi Contemplari, means to contemplate the face of Christ. I chose this Episcopal motto. First of all, it means something very deep to me personally in my own spirituality and form of prayer and meditation. But I took it from the writings of St. John Paul II, from his letter to the Church at the beginning of the new millennium, Nova Millennio Iniunte, and also from his last encyclical, which was on the Eucharist, Ecclesia de Eucharistia. Our Holy Father at that time said that the task of the Church in the new millennium is to show forth the face of Christ to the generations of the new millennium. He said, but our mission would be hopelessly inadequate, he said, if we ourselves had not first contemplated his face, Christ's face. We cannot give what we do not have. And if we do not know Christ, we cannot bring the face of Christ to the world. And then in Ecclesia de Eucharistia, he said, this is the program which I have set before the Church at the beginning of the new millennium, to contemplate the face of Christ and to contemplate it with Mary. So this sort of defines, in a sense, my mission as a bishop, to help my people see the face of Christ, to contemplate his face, to come to know Christ, so that they then can show forth the light of his face to the world.
Very good. Thank you, Archbishop. And as a token of gratitude, we also have a gift for you that ties in with this very well. Since 6 in the morning, we've been working on this. Hopefully you like it, and wow. It ties in very well with your morning.
Wow, it does indeed.
St. Veronica.
That is very, very beautiful. Wow. Now you say you've been working on this?
Yeah, Tiffany mostly.
Painting?
Since 6 in the morning, painting it. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So we met together and we sketched it out in the morning, and then I've been working on it.
Well, you're obviously very talented if you did this in such a short period of time. That's beautiful. Thank you. I will treasure this, truly. I mean that.
Ultimately, the angels and St. Luke that did the final strokes.
Did the final stroke? St.
They weren't even with paintbrushes. They were,
just St. Luke painted Our Lady of Chenstohova. So
exactly. Yeah. So, tying in with that, in a homily you gave in 2011 at a traditional Latin Mass you offered in St. Peter Cathedral in Marquette, you taught about our focus and orientation in the Mass. You gave the example of someone who points and says, I don't like this because I cannot see the priest's face. Does the traditional Latin Mass allow us to better contemplate the face of Christ? And if so, how?
I think in a real practical and spiritual way, the traditional Latin Mass, and in particular the celebration of that Mass, Ad Orientem, facing God, does indeed lead us into a deeper contemplation of Christ in the sacred liturgy. I think when the priest is facing the people, which, as we know, is the common practice throughout the Catholic Church, the Latin Rite of the Catholic Church now these days, the focus sometimes can be on the person of the priest as presider, if you will, of the congregation during the Mass. And I think that for good or for ill, there is sort of an attention being drawn to the person of the priest and perhaps his own personality. I think that the orientation of the traditional Latin Mass and the beauty of that Mass and the quiet prayers of the Mass, I think that, oftentimes people will say that in the traditional Latin Mass, the congregation are simply merely spectators of the Mass, and that is so untrue in my experience of it. What happens, I think, in the traditional Latin Mass, especially with the long periods of silence, this allows the faithful to enter in more deeply into the sacred liturgy. It gives time for prayer. so that we're not constantly feeling like we have to be acting by saying something or doing something in the liturgy. And then the orientation of the liturgy, facing liturgical east, real east or liturgical east, with the priest facing with the people, the direction of the east, the direction that Christ ascended and the direction from which he comes again in glory, allows the whole congregation with the priest to gaze more deeply upon the face of Christ and to contemplate the mystery that we are celebrating. So the focus then is on Christ, who is the actor in the liturgy, and not on any individual person and personality, if you will, of the priest.